What's up guys, welcome to the channel which is dedicated to you the musician and your music career. Now on this channel we are constantly talking about how you can build your music career, how you can take it to the next level and achieve the success you want to achieve. But what happens when you've achieved that success? What happens when you've built something great and you're riding high? And more importantly, what happens when you come out the other end? I have so many friends. Well, I don't have many friends. Well, I don't have a friend. Well, I've got Morgan. I have plenty of friends who've had very successful careers. #1 albums. They've toured the world with the biggest bands on the planet, playing the biggest stadiums. We're talking huge careers, but for a short period of time. And then all of a sudden, things end, because that tends to be what happens. People don't tend to have that riding high for their entire career. Some people do. On the whole, it tends to be a short career at the top. But don't forget, your career might go on for 40 or 50 years. I made a career of hiring these musicians. When I was back at BIMM, I would look for musicians that have had massive highs in their career and sold hundreds of thousands of albums, if not millions, toured the world on a massive level, but now we're out the other end and we're looking for work. Now, when you're successful, that usually does bring a certain level of money in, but you're riding high, you're enjoying yourself, you're partying, you're living for the day, and all of a sudden, one day, those royalty checks dry up, and those tours that you were doing dry up. And at that point, you're starting to look around for what is next. So what can be done about this? And more importantly, as a musician, can you start to invest now, looking forward to when the success happens later? Now, 5 minutes ago, just before we made this video, I asked Morgan M. James, sat behind this camera, who is 20 years old, just turned 20, have you ever thought about investing? And his answer was a stock answer that probably most of you are thinking right now, which is, I don't have any money, but if I did come into money, that's when I would start thinking about the investment. And when I asked, what would you invest in? The classic response, probably property or probably stocks and shares. Those are the two things that people start to think about when it comes to investing, but it doesn't need to be that way. Now, I know this is very grown up and not very rock and roll, but trust me, there will come a time where this stuff matters. And this video is about what nobody told me about investment. So what is an investment? An investment is an action or process of investing money or time for profit. So firstly, with that statement, we can see that it's not just about investing money to make money. You can also invest time to make money. People are obsessed with the term passive income. It's kind of the time that we are living in on Instagram. How can I do something and that will bring me in the money and so I can do something else instead? Well, passive income is a bit of a myth because usually in order to set something up that's going to bring you in money, it's a lot of work. And usually by the time you've put all of that amount of work in, it's not so much passive. But I can see what people are saying, but I think of passive income as an investment. How can I make something, make an investment that then will bring me in money? That is an asset and therefore an investment. But how do we do that? Because what I am seeing and what you probably are seeing is people saying, how can I make millions of pounds from no money and no time by next week? But I get what people are saying with passive income. I call that an investment. If you can make something, if you can make an asset and that investment brings you in money in the future, to me, that is an investment as opposed to passive income as such. But what I am seeing, and what you probably are seeing too, is this lack of patience where people are saying, how can I make millions without any money, without any time, and how can I do it by next week? It's just not realistic. So firstly, we've got to think now for the future because investing is about long term. On the whole, this is about things that you can do slowly and incrementally and water this little plant so this plant over time becomes this massive tree. So what can you invest in? What can you put your time and effort and money in now on a small level so that eventually this will start to grow, bring you in more money and set you up? #1, most of the people watching this are creatives. So your personal brand is very, very important. I sold BIMM in 2010, I think it was, and I didn't start this YouTube channel until 2017. I left it for 7 years. This is an investment, because I love doing this, but I put a lot of time, effort, and I put a lot of money into this because I have to pay people to help me because I'm running other businesses. Now, you might not have the money to be able to do that, but you certainly have the ability and the talent and the experience to be able to make content and build a brand around yourself, the creator, the musician, the artist. This is not wasted time. When you are building a personal brand, whether it's on YouTube or a Facebook page or Instagram, and you are constantly thinking about how you can build your personal brand, this is something that can be monetized later. Now, going back to my example of Morgan, who's behind the camera, Morgan has a YouTube channel with almost 20,000 subscribers, which is fantastic. Apart from the fact that I think it should be 100,000 subscribers, and what he should be doing is nurturing that every single day rather than going up for weeks at a time before making a video. I think this is a way that eventually, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the line, this could subsidize his income or even become a major income for him if he thinks of it as an investment. So let's look at some other options. We are looking long term. Now, you have spent a lot of time learning to play, learning your instrument, learning your art, learning how to write songs. Fantastic. How can we start to utilize this to make it into assets? And there are plenty of ways. Let me give you a couple of ideas. What if you wrote a book? What if you made a course? What if you made a channel? What happens if you made a business around your skills that you have acquired? In a video I did last week, I talked about how much money my YouTube channel is bringing in versus how much money the book I wrote is bringing in. And it works out at the moment about 500-600 quid, about $750 per month. Now, what happens if I write another 4 books and I've got 5 books and all of those are bringing me in 500 quid? So all of a sudden I'm bringing $2.5 grand, $3,000 from just books. What happens if I keep going with my YouTube channel and eventually that's bringing me in 10, 20, 30, 40 grand a year? What happens if I write a course about the things that I know better than everybody else and I go and put time and effort into it? What happens if I wrote a course about music marketing and then I sold it? All of a sudden, you can see how I'm building assets. This is investing. It's investing my time, my knowledge, and some money into putting something together that is an asset which can bring in money. Next thing, and probably the most important one for me, what about investing in people? Anyone has got the ability to hire specialists and hire people. If you think of it that you have all of this stuff to do, and a lot of that is menial tasks, if you could get someone else to come in and start to do those things so you're concentrating on the most important things at all times, things will progress faster, which allows you to then have more time, make more money, which then allows you to invest in more people to take more things off you so you're concentrating at all times on the most important thing. You can do that as a band, you can do that as an artist, you can do that as a creative, and you can do that as a YouTuber. You can do that in any forms of life. You don't need to be a business owner saying, oh, I need an admin secretary. You don't. You can start to hire these people in part-time as well as full-time, whether it's a cleaner, whether it's someone who cooks your food for you. It's giving you more time to concentrate on the most important things. Now, I understand that people are watching this going, oh, that's all right for you if you've got money. But what I'm saying is, how can we start to do these things on a very small level? How can we start to put in £5 or £10 or £50 a month into something that will become £100? And then how can I take that £100 and make it to 200, etc., etc.? And this is why people get it wrong, because they're constantly thinking, I don't have 50 grand to invest in a property, therefore investment's out. You're completely wrong. That £5 that you're putting in to your adverts and that 3 or 4 or 5 hours a day that you're putting into learning how to get the most out of that £5 in your adverts, this is investment. But we need to think of it as investment for the future. Which leads me on to the next thing, personal improvement. It doesn't have to be just money bringing in money. You improving yourself, improving your skill set, or improving your look, or improving yourself allows you to go out and make more money. That in itself is an investment. The best thing that you can possibly invest in for the first few years of your career is this right here. So you've got the knowledge, so that when things are coming to an end of your high and it's starting to come back down. You don't have to hit the earth with a bump. All of a sudden, you can start to figure out, using the skills that you've got, how to move this on to the next level. And whether that's courses or whether that's YouTube videos or whether it's blogs, what it means is you're investing in the thing that you know about and the things that you love. So eventually, should the playing side come to an end, you can still carry this on. Think of it as a professional athlete. Think of it as a tennis player. All of a sudden, they come to the end of their career. What happens? Well, if they've made millions and millions of pounds, they retire. But what if they haven't? What if they've made just enough to get by and get their mortgage and they need another paycheck? What are they going to do? They're going to go into coaching. They're going to go into education. They're going to go into other aspects, but only if they've got that ability and that skill set and that knowledge to be able to progress out of A into B. And leading on from personal development, what about investing in more skills? Whether that's another instrument, whether it's a studio work, or whether it's photography or videography, you have a lot of time as a musician. If you're doing this right and you're on tour, you spend a lot of time in a van, in a bus, at pubs, and don't tell me you don't, because I've done it for years and years and years. The amount of hours I have wasted, which I should have utilized investing in me and my time, rather than sitting at the pub putting the world to rights. And lastly, if you are going to invest money outside of your personal brand, outside of your personal development, then what about doing it in an area that you know a lot about? So for me, if I was going to invest money and I haven't got £100,000 to put as a deposit on a house, what about if I invested in something like guitars? I can tell you the difference between a 60s Fender and a 70s Fender. I can tell the difference between which guitars are going to go up in value and which guitars aren't going to go up in value, because I've seen it for a long period of time. Plus, if I do have to put the research into figuring that stuff out, I'm going to really enjoy that. That is something that I will enjoy learning about. So there is something that I could invest in, so that in 10 years time, I could put 500 quid into buying a certain guitar, knowing that in 10 years time, it's going to be £1,000. You are not going to get that from a bank. This is the way that you can start to invest at any scale. £5 right the way through to £1 million. But you don't need to be a multi-millionaire to start investing.